Hey guys, this is Smithy. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is a very special one. We're going to talk about a newer palette to me from Simply Posh Cosmetics, and that is their Fairytales Fairies palette. I really loved when they it was like absolutely unexpected when they sent out this palette to me. I was so very excited when I got this, especially when I opened it, because when I saw the pictures online when this was released, I felt like there are too many greens for me to handle this palette, but the tones are very nice, like very unique in my collection. So I definitely wanted to play with this, especially because this palette right now is on a sale price, and I think this palette was like for $36. Yeah, the palette is for $36 right now. Original price is like $45. So if you can find this palette at a discounted price, I mean, you know how much I love and adore Simply Posh Cosmetics. I have almost all of their palettes in my collection. I love their Berry Icy palette. That is the one that I traveled with when I went to India. I love their Genuine Gems palette. I love their Citrus Sponge palette. And now the Fairytales Fairies palette. I really like this palette. So if you guys want to see my review, first impression and the swatches using this palette, and 3 looks using this palette, then please keep on watching. Now, as I said, this palette retails for $36 right now. You can also use the code SMITHY for saving 10% off on top of that. And oh my god, that's such a great deal. Such a great deal. Every Simply Posh Cosmetics palettes comes with like 12 beautiful buildable matte shades in each corners. And they are placed in such a beautiful array that you can straight away go around the column and create every look like a monochromatic look. And the middle row is completely full of duochrome shades. Duochrome means it shifts to like 2 different shades, and I really love the addition of that in every palette. Now these palettes are magnetics, as you can see. They can be taken off, made into a custom palette, and that comes in so handy for me. Let me see if I can like show you the palette that I traveled with when I went to India. So I took this Berry Icy palette, and of course I used like my Simply Posh Cosmetics palette shadows, and I pulled out like my Citrus Sponge palette shadows, my Genuine Gems eyeshadow palette, and I also took some of my multi-chromes that I created. So I felt like this was such a handy palette to have with me when I was traveling. One, because these shadows are not like so softly pressed that it might like shatter or anything. You don't have to worry about that. And this travels so beautifully. One, the pans are magnetic, so you can customize it. It's just so very nice. Now let me show you like the swatches in the outside lighting, how this palette swatches, because the swatches are beautiful. Like the mattes were creamy. The shimmers are of like various texture, I would say. Some of the shimmers are like softly pressed, and some of them are like more tightly pressed in the pan. For example, this shade was like a little more hardly pressed, but these shades are like so soft in the pan, like it picks out very nicely on the fingers. But it's more like a sheen when you take it out with the fingers. But I would suggest using like a toothy flat brush to apply it on your eyes, and that is when you can see all the shifts and the shimmers that is happening with the palette. So yeah, without further ado, let me show you the 3 looks that I created using this palette. So let's start off with the first look. I cannot wait to dive into this palette because this looks so beautiful. Now the story is, what should I apply first? I definitely want to go more like warm tone in the beginning, because this I'm so scared of this. So let's start off with the pinky purpley area. We'll mix a little bit of teal also in the mix. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to first start off with this shade, the deeper reddy burgundy shade, which is called Once Upon a Time, and I'm going to take that on my refer number 1. Let's see how deep it can go. Oh, that is pretty deep. That's pretty deep. Okay, I'm going to first start off with that, pat it off, and I'm going to take that on both the eyes just because I have to go to church today. And tomorrow I'll do the second and the third look using this palette. So first I'm just gonna tap this shade just to get that red all across the eyelid, and then start blending it towards my crease, just so that the maximum pigment is on the outer corners, and then we blend whatever is left on the brush towards the crease, just like that. I like that. Now I'm going to take this shade to blend out this deeper red shade, and this is called Fantasy, and this is like a, you know, a cool tone, like a neutral pink, I would say. This palette is pretty cool tone comparatively. I love how Simply Posh Cosmetics shades blend with each other. Like, you won't be able to see any harsh edges, and they mix together so well, so well. Look at that. Love it. I'm going to take the same pink shade towards the inner third also, just right here. It's just so pretty. Really, really, really amazing how this is turning out to be. Now I'm gonna take a tight definer brush. I'm gonna go with this shade, this teal shade I would say, and this is called Mystical. I don't know how this is gonna turn out, but we'll try. I'm gonna take that all across my lower lash line, just like that, to pair up with that shade. It's such a pigmented shade. Just like that. It looks a little harsh right now. I'm actually going to take a smaller blending brush, and I'm going to take that same shade Mystical right in the outer corner also, just to tie in all together. I want that a little bit on top of the eyelid too. I'm just going to do that. Just like that. Oh, I like that. I like that so much more. I'm gonna go back to that Once Upon a Time shade, the red shade, just so that we don't lose on that. And just flick it right, mixing it with that teal shade on the center of the eyelid, just like that. Now I'm gonna go back to that Fantasy shade, the pink shade, and I'm just gonna blow out my lower lash line, just so that that teal is not that harsh, and I get that pink fading to a teal, just like that. I like that. Okay, now I'm gonna take my NYX glitter glue, because I always apply my NYX glitter glue, you know that. On my eyelid. Okay, now I'm gonna take that Mythical shade, the pinky shade. Actually, I'm gonna twist the brush. I'm gonna first start with that Enchanted shade, which is more of that, I would say, purpley pink shade. I'm gonna start off with that. Right there. I felt like this was the only shade that was difficult for me to swatch, but on the eyelid it's performing really, really well. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I really like Simply Posh Cosmetics, like shimmer shadows. The mattes are obviously gorgeous. The shimmers are definitely a lot more harder pressed in the pan, but these shimmers do not crease on me one bit, and it lasts throughout the day. And that's the best part about these shimmers. Like, you can see the sparkle and the shine. So pretty. Look at that. And this was the shade Enchanted. And now I'm just gonna flip the brush and go into Mythical shade. And take that, melt it with that Enchanted shade. Mythical is definitely more of like that peachy pink shade, whereas Enchanted was more purpley pink. Really like that, like the brightness of the shadow. And melting it with that purple shade. This shadow, Mythical, has definitely more like sparkle and shine as compared to the Enchanted shade. But it's not over as yet. I'm going to take this shade, which is Sparkles, this one. I'm going to first apply that in my inner corner and then flicking it through the crease, just because I want that tinge of green to pair with that pink. Just like that. And it's a very bright green shade. It's like a yellow green. Just like that. I'm going to finish off this eye with some liner and mascara, and I'll get right back. And that's my first eye look. I love how mystical, how ethereal it looks on the eyes. I really love the combination. I never could think that I could like pair green and pink together, especially this kind of like a yellow green, but I really love the way how these like colors mesh together with each other. I cannot wait to do like second and the third look and let you guys know which one is my favorite look. So yeah, let's move on to the second eye look. Okay, let's start off with our second eye look. Definitely want to dive into the greens because that's the majority of this palette. So I'm going to take this shade, and this is called Evergreen. I'm going to take this on the BK Angie Hot and Flashy brush A501, and I'm going to concentrate more on the outer corners just to get that depth of that green. Oh, that's a beautiful shade of green. I'm going to tightly pack it here. Just don't want to flare it out too much. Just like that. And I'm also going to take the same shade on the outer corners of the lower lash line. Something like that. I'm also going to take the same shade actually on the inner corner too. Just a tad little bit. Now I'm going to take a smaller blending brush and gonna dip into Woodlands. It's a little bit more on the olive side. And I'm gonna take that right there, melting it with that deeper green. Same thing here. And then joining it on the crease. I'm gonna take a tighter defining brush. Just clean my brush. I'm gonna take the same Woodlands shade and then melting it with that deeper evergreen shade, I think. Yeah, evergreen shade. I'm gonna dip into this shade, Whimsical. It's like a, what do I say, like a minty green. I'm gonna focus that on the inner third of the crease. Just want lightness here, like there. I think it's too big of a brush. Let's take a smaller blending brush. And now going into Pixie shade. This shade is definitely much more lighter than the first shade that we applied. As you can see. Can you see that? Yeah, that's too much. But we're gonna blend it. Don't worry. And then I'm gonna take this shade Pixie again and focus that on my inner corner of the eye, because I want that maximum payout in the inner corner and then floating it across the inner third of the crease. I'm gonna go back into that evergreen shade and the woodland shade, the deeper greens, and just intensifying my inner third of the eyelid. And now I'm gonna just take that smaller blending brush with the same Whimsical shade and then just blend it on my lower lash line too, just to blow it out. Just like that. I'm going to take NYX Glitter Glue and just tap it right in the center before applying the shimmers. Don't you worry, it looks scary, I know. Like that. And I'm going to take this shade, fairy dust, and I'm gonna just pat it right there wherever we have that blank space. And also I'm gonna pat it over that mat just a tad bit, just so that it smoothly flows into those mats. And this shimmer is the star of the show today, at least for this eye look. Like, look at that, how beautiful and sparkly that shade is. And these shades like stay there for the entire day. Like yesterday I did the first eye look, and I went around like 11:30 at night to like take off my eye, and it was exactly the same way I applied it in the morning. I'm going to finish off this eye with some liner and mascara, and I'll get right back. And that's my second eye look. I really love the way how this turned out. Like, you guys know how much I'm like not into greens, but if you just see this eye, it's like very dramatic obviously, but if you love a green eye, you would love it for sure. I love the sparkle. Really love the sparkle, and the, you know, the lightness that has been thrown by the mint shade in the inner corners. That's really good. Okay, let's move on to something else that's a little bit more into my comfort zone. Not totally, but yes, a little bit. Now for the next eye, I'm going to dip into this pastel shade, and this is called Storybook. First in my inner third of the eyelid, just right there. And this is my reference number 15. And this would give enough lightness for me, like lightness and brightness for my eye look to pop. Again, just concentrating it right there. I would get it to the outer corners too, but just as a blending shade. It should maximum pop from the inner corners. Okay, now I'm gonna dip into a little more on the deeper pink shade. This one, the first one, the one that we used in the first look, Fantasy. And again, I'm just gonna focus that right there, just to get a little bit more of a pop. And now I'm gonna take this shade, which is Dreamy, which is like a pastel blue shade. I'm gonna focus that right here below that pink, so that when this blue meets that pink, it creates like a lavender shade right there. Now I'm gonna dip into this shade, which is Magic, which is that deeper blue shade in the palette. Again, gonna focus that right there. And blend it into that pastel blue shade. Just like that. I'm gonna take a tighter definer brush and dip into the same blue Magic. And I'm gonna go on the outer corner with that same shade. Now because this is a packer brush, this would deposit much more color. I'm gonna do the same thing on the outer corners of the lower lash line. Packing a tad bit more here in the inner corners too, just for that blue to be visible. Now with the same brush, I'm gonna dip into the shade Once Upon a Time mixed with Fantasy. I'm gonna start blending that blue out to the crease. I'm gonna take this blue and this teal shade together just to get a deeper blue, and then just mix it in the outer corner and in the inner corner, and then blend it again. There's a lot of blending that's going on here because I'm mixing a couple of shades together. I'm gonna go and put some NYX glitter glue. Now before we apply the glitter, I'm gonna take a tad little smaller brush and go into this shade, which is Fairytale, which is like a lavender shade, and just melt it right down the center where the pink meets the blue, just so that we have that purple transition happening right there. I'm gonna take these two shades, Ethereal and Wishes. First Ethereal and then blend it into Wishes. So I'm gonna first take Ethereal, which is like a green to a purple. I'm gonna first start it right there, mainly showing up purple, but I have that green shift. Can you see that? And then dipping into a flatter brush, and then dipping into Wishes, which is that blue to a purple, and placing it right there in the inner third. So we have like a blue, purple, pink, purpley, pinky, green. And then just scatter it around in the center, so it doesn't look like a cut crease. Going back into the tight definer brush with Once Upon a Time in the outer corner, and then blending it out with that magic shade, and then Dreamy shade in the inner corner. And I'm gonna just pack it out, that Dreamy shade in the inner corner of the eye, just for a little bit more lightness. Just like that. Just like that. I'm gonna finish off this eye with some liner and mascara. And that is my third eye look. Definitely more ethereal, more like whimsical. I really love the way how this turned out. This is definitely outside my comfort zone, but this is definitely like, I feel like I can definitely pull it off. I really hope that you guys enjoyed all the 3 looks that I created for you guys. Do let me know in the comment section below, out of the 3 looks, which one was your favorite. I'll put it on the screen for you guys, which is my favorite look, and I cannot wait to hear from you guys. Like, if you do have this palette, do you enjoy it? Do you really love the color story? Because how can you not love it? Like, I really love this palette. And that's all for today, guys. If you did like it, you know what to do. Do give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so that you're notified every time that I post next. I generally upload 3 videos every single week, every Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays at 9 AM Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.